Thank you. Are you busy? Are you very busy? A better question might be, do you get a lot of things done? Do you wish you can get more done with more time on your hands? Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most welcome guests, over the last 20 years, I've developed a system for getting things done. This system works very well for me, and tonight, I'm going to share the system with you. I think it's imperative that you take away one or two things. There's a lot of research that backs up what I'm talking about, and again, I hope that you can learn from it. This is not a speech about watch how much Robert gets done and things like that. I don't intend to make it a boast, but what I want you to do is, again, learn how I do it, and maybe, again, take away one or two things. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is what I've got on my plate, just as an example. You know, I'm just like you, but I do have a lot on my plate in my professional and personal life. I'm a father of 5 children, happily married. I spend a ton of time with my kids. We live on a lake, do tons of camping, a lot of family time. I'm very engaged in my community, very active with our church, a member of Rotary International, as you all know, the Toastmasters as well. I love education. I've got a bachelor's and a master's, but I'm still going to graduate school at the University of Detroit. Sometimes I go to school at Oakland University for some of their nursing programs, so very active in school as well. I love my sports. I run about 50 miles a week, which surprises a lot of people. I train for ultramarathons. I love handball, so I compete nationally in handball at the Detroit Athletic Club. I play 2 or 3 times a week. My work life, just like most people, I work for Lutheran Social Services, but I take care of people in their homes, so I travel throughout the state. In fact, tonight I was a few minutes late coming back from some clients in Grand Rapids. So I've just got a lot on my plate, but I can tell you this, I'm not busy. I don't feel busy and I don't feel overwhelmed. And that's why I want to share with you these 4 points. So the first point, which is really important, it's from a book by David Allen. It's called Getting Things Done. Very important point that Mr. Allen talks about in his book. It's the difference between a project and a process. A lot of people in their minds, they confuse the two. So like this time of year, a project that you should all work on is your taxes. But too frequently, people think, I need to do my taxes versus the step, which is buy TurboTax. Find a CPA, organize my information. The point is, you need to organize your thoughts towards the steps of the things you need to do and not the projects you need to do. Your brain only has so much capacity, and that's overwhelming if people all of a sudden think of all the projects they need to complete. Just think in terms of the steps. Now the next is equally as important. It's from the book The Goal. The author was Eli Goldratt. Some of you may have known him. He talked about the theory of constraints. This, in conjunction with the first item, is critical. Because what Mr. Goldratt talks about is you can only do one step at a time that will move the project forward. So let's say doing your taxes has 10 steps. One of those steps is the constraint. If you're working on the other 9, you're wasting your time in essence. So in reality, to move projects forward, just focus on the constraints. So if you think about that from number 1 and number 2, if you just focus on the steps of a process and just focus on the constraints, imagine how much you can increase your efficiency just by those 2 things. Very important concepts. The third item is something I personally like to do. I always like to do multiple things at the same time. So for example, driving in my car, on my way to see a client, I could be practicing a Toastmaster speech on a topic that I later need to use for work. There's 3 things. Bonus points if you can get 4. If you like to watch TV, hop on a treadmill, hop on a bike. Always focus on merging elements of your life so that you're literally accomplishing multiple things at the same time. Now the last, which I love too, is that there's really nothing up here. My wife would agree with me. But the point is this. This is valuable real estate. Your brain is for thinking, not for storage of information. So in reality, everybody in this room needs to write things down. You need to develop a system to write down the projects that you need to do, the tasks that you need to do, the constraints within those tasks. And that's when you use this brain. But when you're trying to recall information, you just need to look, and I use my PDA at an electronic system. And what this does is it frees up a ton of space in your head. You're not always trying to recall information. So you look at the research and the sources of anxiety. Or people feel overwhelmed. Of course you could feel overwhelmed, because if you're trying to accomplish 10 projects at the same time, that's nearly impossible. And then recalling all that information, you can see why some people have anxiety. So I point out to you, develop a system. Use this for thinking or resting. So, in summary, Toastmasters, this speech is about becoming efficient. I don't want everybody in this room to become workaholics. It's not what I'm trying to say. What I want you to do is do as much as you do now, but do it easier. You know, somebody might be saying, hey, I only want to do one thing at a time. I want to talk to my wife and not look at the basketball game like that commercial. Absolutely. You need to do that. But my point is, by becoming extremely efficient in other areas of your life, you truly will be able to relax and have time on your hands and rest your brain when you need to. Thank you.